Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm the Soundman and I'm joined by Zara Kane from Zara Kane. How are you today, Zara?
I'm all good, thank you. This has been something that someone recommended. Well, someone popped a comment, didn't they? And they said, oh, you two should do something together. And I was like, actually, yeah, I'll jump on that. I'll take that challenge. So
yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah, well, you've become the kind of go-to GSC YouTuber, I think, nowadays, which is pretty cool because I think as a community, we were lacking a bit of a focus. There's just not many of us, I think, now.
Yeah, I mean, when like someone else said to me, like, oh, you're the one who people look to now, and I was like, well, that's not really a huge thing because there is only me and maybe, I don't know, is there two others? I think there's you, and I think Morty and Glory was doing a bit of Genestealer Cults stuff as well, but obviously that's not his real focus.
Yeah, I mean, like myself, for example, GSC are not my main army. For those people that know me well, will know that lore-wise and aesthetically-wise, I'm a massive Dark Angels fan. But to play with...
Really? I actually didn't know that.
yeah, that's true. But to play with, I wouldn't choose anything else. GSC they're just too much fun. But you actually are... GSC your main army, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, back in the day, I started it must have been 2003 or something, and then I had about a 17-year hiatus. And when I came back, I just looked through all the catalogue of new stuff that come out. I was like, what the hell is all this? And then I remembered I had the 2nd edition Codex somewhere, and I'd seen what the original Patriarch used to look like, and I was like, I remember that. And then I saw the new cool stuff that had probably been out maybe 6 months, and I was like, yeah, that's the one for me. Gotta play as the underdog. That's my favourite.
True, yeah, the true underdog. So, cool. Well, the point of this video is we thought it would be fun to have a chat about what kind of things we would like to see in the 9th edition Codex. There's been some big rumours flying about, so we are fingers crossed that in the near future we're going to get something. But we thought we'd have a chat in case the rules writers are listening as to what kind of things we think the book needs to have. It's no secret that GSC are currently the worst faction in the game. They've had such a bad win rate for such a long time.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it's, well, I mean, I think probably the most indicative thing is that nobody plays them. I was joking after the last tournament that I am technically the number 2 ranked player in England after one tournament because there are 2 people that play Genestealer Cults in the UK.
Is the other guy any good?
I assume he is very good. I assume he's a proper player. But the fact is just nobody plays this faction. Nobody wants to play it. I know we've had COVID, but it's pretty dire. And so the book needs a big lift. So I thought what we would do is rather than just going through datasheet by datasheet and all the strats, for example, we'd talk a bit more abstractly and then give some examples of things we would like to be changed. So I'm going to start off with a topic that I wanted to talk about, which is characters. There's a couple of things here just to mention. So number 1, we can't take that many characters. So this one's quite easy, I think, to fix because we've seen this in most codexes where you can take multiple characters in slots. GSC clearly need that. It's just not feasible to fit all those characters in, and they're a massively undervalued part of the GSC range, I think, is the fact that we have such a high amount of characters. And of course the other thing is of course how they can play, because it's really tough to play lists when they've got high numbers of characters because they give up things like assassinate for one, but also if you've got all that many if you've got that many points in characters and not in other things, there's just not going to be much to screen them, so they'll just die very, very quickly, especially with the new lookout server rules.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, what I remember when I first started, because I actually learned the game with Genestealer Cult as my first army, and my whole idea of how the game was supposed to work was a little bit skewed because this was my first impression, and I was like, okay, so I need to have the Biophagus to buff the Aberrants, I need to have so-and-so to buff the so-and-so. My list was like 1,000 points of characters, and I was wondering why I was getting smashed. And then I looked at my opponents, and I was like, oh, you've only got 2 characters. And you get away with it, you don't need all these buffs and stuff. And so I had to, tell myself going forwards, stop bringing all these ones. If you really, really don't need them, just get rid of them, especially things like the Bifocus, because he comes into the game, he gives one injection to a bunch of mutants. He'll probably kill one in the process, which is hilarious. And then he doesn't do anything for the rest of the game. Really, he either needs to be given more to do in the game, or he just needs to be removed. Well, I mean, I guess they wouldn't remove a model at this stage, but just kind of changed in what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. The Biophage is a really great one to jump to because it is sad. I think he's one of the best, and his familiar are some of the best models GW have done. They're just so cool. They're just absolutely brilliant models.
He does look great.
Yeah. I did say we didn't want to go through datasheet by datasheet, but are there any other characters that really jump out to you that you're like, I would love to give this person more of a run?
Well, I think Abominant was always my big one because I played Crusade a lot when it first came out, and because I had the chance to field people that I wouldn't usually use, I'd bring the Abominant along and I'll give him all his experience points, would get him all these extra relics and stuff, and he was so fun to use, and I was like, finally, I can actually make some use of him. But then you go to a normal game and you're like, I just can't, there's just no reason to put all those points into him. His abilities are just cool, but they're not enough to warrant bringing him.
Yeah, absolutely. You're saying you need those if the very expensive aberrants that you're taking are not killing what they need to kill. At that point, we're at a bad place already. Absolutely. And those 3 attacks hitting on 4s, they've got that high damage. They have that min 3.
That is so bad, yeah.
Against anything with an invuln, you're probably doing nothing with CP rerolls.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of times I'd bring him along and he would miss probably 2 of those attacks, and then the one which you do get through is probably going against an invuln character or something anyway, so that'll always get saved. But the point is, hitting on 4s is just ridiculous for someone you're paying 115 points, I think. And then if you come up against a squad, you're only going to be able to kill 3 characters, or 3 models, even if you do hit them in the first place. So if you get swamped by like an infantry squad or something, he's just going to be stuck there.
Yeah, that's true. And I think the ones I'll mention, I kind of group a couple together, but I'm going to go for the snipers. So we've got the Sanctus, the Kelermorph, and the Jackal Alphas, really. What I wanted to say for them, GW, if you're listening, is that they just don't work. They just don't work with the faction unless you give them some rules to survive, because obviously GSC have made a pay, but the Kelermorph is the best example. So the Kelermorph has a very short range gun, it's a pistol, so it depends if he's got the upgrade or not, but he's going to be very close to the enemy lines, and he's going to be screened by like 10 acolytes. So he's only getting 1 turn. There's no way around that. He's always going to get 1 turn, and then he's going to die because he's just too close. So he needs some rule, I don't know what, but something to allow him to stay alive, or else he's just going to get wiped every time you bring him down. Yeah,
I think the way that they must have envisioned the Kelermorph, I think there's somewhere in the Codex where it gives you the description, like the Kelermorph is this guy who's like, he's going to be in a mass of neophytes, he's kind of shooting his way to the front, and they're all kind of, gaining the inspiration from him being this hero figure. If you do play him that way, then potentially you can keep him alive with unquestioning loyalty and stuff like that. But most people will always do the classic, you pop the Kelermorph up at the back line somewhere, you try and kill a warlord or something like that, and most of the times his pistols, they're not strong enough to kill him, or they'll make a load of invuln saves and then he's just dead in the water, he's stuck out in the middle of nowhere, he just gets absolutely Swiss cheesed.
Yeah. So where do you want to jump to next? What kind of big areas do GSE fall down in? Where should they be good but they're not, I guess is the question.
Well, I don't know if it's where they should be good, but definitely I think durability is the absolute... I think it's the thing which every player, coming to the faction will come in and go, why am I getting my ass kicked so much? It's because they put the units onto the board and they expect to be able to take a certain amount of damage and still stand up. And that is the number 1 learning curve thing here. You just can't do that. Apart from the Goliath trucks, they do kind of prove a bit annoying for people to chew through, but infantry is just a no-go. So I think durability needs to be looked at. It's either it needs to be raised in some areas, or we need to be given more tricks which subvert the idea of durability.
So things like the old wrapping and trapping, I guess, jump to my mind. That kind of thing would be cool.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's not that this should be an area where we excel. I don't want aberrants to have a 3-up invuln or something, but we need some durability somewhere. It's actually gotten worse because of 9th, and not because 9th is a worse rule set. I think it's better, to be honest, than 8th. But the thing is, because holding objectives is now more important, not having durability is now an even greater cost. So before it was the case that, we would die, but if we're killing stuff as well, that's the same time. And actually, in a shootout, we're not the worst army, but you need points to win the game, and we just can't get them.
Exactly,
we die so quickly.
With the aberrants as a good example, because if you look at the model designs, you know that the neophyte is going to be toughness 3, and the acolytes, well, they do actually surprise people. When I come up against like players who've never been against Genestealer Cult before, they look at an acolyte and they think they're actually not that small. They should be maybe toughness 4, and then they realise they can just absolutely mow through them like nobody's business. But I think aberrants definitely, there's a load of toughness 5 stuff these days, like the orcs. Maybe if they could go up to 5, that would be just that extra sort of buffer against bolt guns and anything like that.
No, I like that. I think that kind of thing would be good. Just some little buffs here and there would be really, really helpful, I think. And I think the final topic I wanted to mention, and this is definitely an area where we should be good, we should be the premier faction in this, is coming in from reserves. The point of Genestealer Cult is that we've planned this for generations, and we should dominate that battlefield. The blips really help us dominate that turn 1. That's great, and I think it surprises people when they first play against the faction sometimes, when I've played people, because when they say, okay, so what buffs to charge do you have? And I say, nothing, just innately I've no buffs to charge. I can spend 3 CP to buff 1 unit, and that's it. That's all I have. And a lot of the rules are clearly designed to be encouraging you to deep strike as much of the army as possible. And this is how people used to play the faction. You'd regularly see battle reports with like 1,000 points in deep strike and stuff, which is really cool. But you just cannot have a competitive game in 9th edition when you're relying on 9-inch charges. You'll just never see people banking on those, ever. Even like Blood Angels 8-inch charges, you just won't see people relying on those unless they have no other option. And so GSC needs some big help there. And I know it's going to seem like a massive deal to give the entire faction reliable charges out of deep strike, but I think it's too important. And I would be fine with things going up in points if we had reliable deep striking, because I'd be fine with us not hitting that hard, but it was more reliable damage personally. But that's just me.
In a game nowadays, I've got 2 squads that do my deep striking, and they just do retrieve Octarius data. Apart from that, I don't do anything, because I had to wean myself off it. Like, the whole idea of coming in and trying to get a 9-inch charge is just, it's not going to work. When you need it to work, it just will let you down. So the idea, like, I know obviously Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor was the one which was designed for this, where you could come in, you've got +1 to your charge, and then if you had a Clamavus there, you get another +1. But even then, you're still probably going to fail it just out of bad luck. So why kind of bank your whole game plan idea around that thing which you haven't got certainty of? Has been my way of thinking anyway. So I think Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor especially, like their thing doesn't even make sense. It says that you get +1 to advances after you come out of deep strike. And I was like, well, that clearly needs to change, because that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of rules that need to be adjusted, even just for 9th edition. I think that would be a good thing. But yeah, especially just in terms of the models for the rules, either they need to be improved or points need to go down, really.
I think the points are probably about right where they should be. It's just what we get for those points needs to be reevaluated. And certainly a lot of things with like the cult creeds, they really need looking at. I mean, everyone, if they're a newbie, they probably come and don't understand the fact that there's stuff like the Ridge Runners don't get access to the cult creed. It's just silly things like that. Like,
and Genestealers
why?
In a Genestealer Cult army.
Yeah. I mean, I always thought that the Pure Strains and the Patriarch himself should get some kind of other, like a side creed. You know how like in Drukhari you've got the Witch Cult, you've got the Homunculus Covens, and then the Cabals, like the 3 different sort of creed sub-factions within it. I think that could work for us.
Okay, cool. And so were there any other major things that you would like to see improved about the book?
I think the custom creeds, I've said this before on my YouTube, they have just got to be completely gutted and started again, because they are so bad.
Yeah.
But that, and also there's the Brood Brothers thing. The Brood Brothers are like seriously needing something to make them worthwhile.
Okay, yeah. So what would you change about Brood Brothers?
Well, I mean, the question is, you put them side by side, and you've got Neophytes and Brood Brother infantry squads, and you say, well, one of them gets the Cult Creed and one of them doesn't. So why the hell would you do the Brood Brothers? It makes no sense to choose them. So perhaps some kind of, like I said, like a sub-faction ability. I'm literally out of ideas of what it could be, because if you give them kind of like Cadian reroll ones or something like that, then that could make them maybe way too powerful for what they are. But who knows, something like that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm kind of happy in a way for Brood Brothers to always be worse than Imperial Guard, because that's kind of fits with me thematically, I think, and you want Imperial Guard
by
to have
rights
an
they should be
advantage.
worse.
Yeah, so yeah, it's an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see how they handle Brood Brothers in 9th edition, whether we'll get more units in that codex. That would be really cool.
What I always thought of was definitely that they should get some kind of like a Brood Brothers commander or something like that, who can act the role as like a company commander and then
like
give them those orders. Because I think back in the day you could actually give orders from a side, like a patrol detachment, to the main codex Brood Brothers. And so you could do loads of cool stuff like coming out of Deep Strike and then doing first rank fire, second rank fire with a 20-man squad, something crazy like that.
That's cool.
Okay. The only other one I thought, you did mention the Sanctus as the sniper. One thing that his gun definitely needs to be changed, because the Gift from Beyond is the coolest relic. And I used to use it all the time, and it really screws with people. But since the way the rules change with, you can't plus or minus 1 to wound or to hit or anything, so that messes up the special ruling there.
Yeah, there's a lot of little hang-ups like that in some of the 8th Ed codexes. All right, yeah, we've got kind of 3 big things, I think, there, especially where we've got this resilience, the improving the characters and improving the deep strike. We're not asking for the world. We don't want everything. We don't want, like, for example, there are lots of really good things about the book right now. The psychic powers are pretty amazing. We have some pretty incredible secondary play. And actually, I'm kind of all right with how killy we are. I generally find we kill what we need to kill. But I think we really struggle to play that primary, especially without the resilience. And not having that, the way the characters work in the army just doesn't quite work. Like, I want to play a 7-character army, I really do, but it just doesn't quite work right now.
I still do sometimes. But it's not always a good way to do it. But I mean, I think I definitely heard on one of your videos you were saying how you kind of always you do well with your secondaries and you struggle with your primaries. I think I do the other way around because of the way my army works. I'm usually up in the enemy's face so quickly in turn 1 that it's scoring the primaries is fine. It's just how long can I hang on and kind of keep doing that throughout the game, because I'll start to run out of units, and as they're getting whittled down, then it starts to fall apart a bit then.
Cool. Well, yeah, we're obviously both really hoping that the Genestealer Cult Codex isn't far away, and that our beloved cults get some improvements. Thank you so much for coming on, Zara.
So good.
Yeah, do go and check out Zara's channel if you're a Genestealer Cult player, especially because she has a whole host of videos on how to play the faction and how to play each unit even. So make sure you give that a look. Thank you very much for watching this video. I'll see you for the next one. See you next time.